dogs going here.
Before, on the other side of that gate that we went through up here, what we drove through, we grazed down to like nothing. May the 25th is when we pulled off of that. So there was like nothing there May 25th. And you can't hardly even tell the difference. And so we'll see. One side of the fence we've got no grazing within the last 12 months. One side grazed down to nothing May 25th. And then one side was more of a conventional type graze. And I'll give you the number on recovery on that whenever we are up there, but just kind of wanted to share that. So we've had 35 days of rest over here. So you can kind of see in a growing season graze, we try to leave some residual that late into the year. If it's May, that's fine. If it's July or August, we like to leave a little more residual cover because it can get hot. Then we went down onto the river. I don't think it's legal, but I've got hot wire running across the river on boundaries and that kind of stuff. I don't do much high intensity stuff down there. One, because the brush. Two, because the deer and stuff going through hot wire is a pain in the butt, and at any given point that river can start flooding, and I need to get stuff off as fast as possible because that river can get from back there to a mile that way wide. And so that is one thing. This is a seasonally flooded area right here. So this was all cut for hay. Dad, when did y'all cut this? Where's Dad at?
Next area, bro.
How long did y'all cut this? 50 years?
Well, yeah.
This was cut for 50 years in August. I mean, every year, and it was still continuously grazed at the same time.
Oh my!
And we stopped cutting hay, I don't know, what,
4 or 5 years ago.
No, about 10 years ago. We were here 5 years ago.
Okay.
Anyways, nonetheless, time flies, right? So we stopped doing that, and it's tough because this is all underwater pretty much from October to June typically. This is all underwater. So we can't even get out here and graze it. And so we've only got July, August, and September to be able to utilize it. With this rain coming, I may be, per se, wasting a lot of grass over on this side. I was going to start stripping it off from this point because their water's right over here. You'll also see somewhere behind us there's a bull wire panel, and I've got a water tap right there, so I can tap into that and put a mobile water tank anywhere down here if I want and strip off and those kind of things. But once it gets wet down here, you can start pugging it up and those kind of things, and it's really slow to recover if you do that. Granted, you're impacting a smaller area. Whenever we let them out into this here in a few minutes, they're going to have access to, hang on, let me see how many acres it is.
Do you use Maya or pasture?
I've got pasture map. It's buggy. I'm not real high on it, but it's free, so. 116 acres is what that one is. The pasture they're in right now is like 70 acres. And they've been in there, I think this is day 4, and we'll be moving them out from that. You can see there.
How many did?
There's about I don't know. There's probably 350 cows and 300 calves or something like that. Trying to think what else I wanted to chat about. Cow days per acre. So on this side, if we really wanted to, look at that. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is.
If we really wanted to just strip this off, we could get about Clarendon College kids. Y'all listening? Pull out your phone. Are y'all pretty green? How long y'all been at Clarendon? Oh, we're green. Have y'all started calculating animal days per acre or anything like that? Don't even know what that means, do you? That's okay. That's okay. We're learning. Okay, so if a piece of ground could produce, and I say cow days, like that's just kind of rancher lingo, I guess. It's the same thing as an animal unit day is what I call it. But if I say a piece of ground has 365 cow days per acre, that means that ground on 1 acre you could run a cow for a year, 1 cow for 1 whole year, or you could run 365 cows for 1 day.
Yeah.
This out here is probably about 150 cow day per acre if I wanted to strip it off. So basically you're almost running 2 acres per animal. Our county average is what, 25 maybe or something? That stuff we drove through up there, I'm getting 225 to 250 cow days per acre. So almost 1 animal per day just on native rangeland, if you strip it out. If you're just going to go turn them out and let them graze, you're probably looking at, I don't know, Justin, where's Justin here? Hey, Justin Rader. We're conventionally grazing this out here. How many cow days are you going to get off of it? 20 cow days the acre is what he's saying. So that's what, 5, 10, that's like 13, wait, 18? Is that right? 18 acres per animal per year? Is that right?
Right.
That
Okay.
would be right.
Yeah. So what he's saying is if we just wanted to, as Dr. Steffens would say it, Columbus method it, we turn them out and in the fall we come rediscover them. We would get about 18 acres per cow is what it would take. Versus if we're stripping it off, we can get 2 acres per cow. So essentially we can run 9 times as many animals. So it's either running 100 animals or running 900 animals. It's going to do the same thing. Now, we'd also have to supplement a little bit of protein to do that, but that's still cheaper in being able to run more animals. Hey, Clarendon College kids. Hey, quit talking. I know you get tired of doing that, so I figured I'd save you some work. Guys, seriously, if you're serious about this, this is super valuable information. This is what you can get to pay for a ranch. I mean, not quite that, but this makes a business work. I promise it does.
So Adam, on that, what you just said, and I'm getting into your business, and you may not want to answer. Have you and Aubrey made enough money from the ranching the way you've done to buy this 2 sections? Will you tell about that?
Yeah. So we started in 2019. We had I think we had $60,000 to our name that we could put towards this, and we could buy a load of cows for $27,000. I think was our first load of bred cows. That was like 65 cows, and now we've got 350 cows. They're all owned outright. We have no debt on them. We just purchased over $1 million property. Granted, we didn't pay cash. We have a loan on that. But to go from 60,000 to now, $750,000 worth of cattle in 4.5 years. Plus, we paid ourselves a little bit of a salary, not a lot. Last year was the first year that we did a little more. The first few years, we didn't pay ourselves a salary, so that's kind of not quite apples to apples. I'll be honest too. Government subsidies helped us do that a lot too. The rancher has been more subsidized in the last 4 or 5 years than ever through coronavirus payments and all this other stuff.
So do you pay a lease to your dad?
Yes, yeah, we pay a lease. We out of our pockets have written over $200,000 worth of improvements onto this place, water and fence. Now, as Dad saw the value and how it actually added so much value to this ranch, they've actually reimbursed us, which has been a complete no-brainer for us. I have a feeling our lease rates are probably going to go up. No, it's a little bit. So, that's kind of...
I don't want him to know how many cows.
But that's kind of how, literally, we spent over $200,000 in water development. We did, I think, about 40,000 foot of 3-inch line 1 year. So that storage tank up there at the top of the hill is what's watering these cows. There's a water tank right down here. You're standing on top of a water pipeline right now. Like I said, that's a tap right there behind you. We've got a couple of systems like this. This system, we've got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 miles of line on it. It'll hold, we probably got 50 or 60,000 gallons worth of storage in it. So that storage tank will hold 25,000 gallons of water. And then we did 3-inch line to get recharge. We can water 1,000 cows on that water tank y'all saw at the hangar, because recharge is 75 gallons a minute. If we took the float off this thing and I've got a picture, water will shoot up as high as those cottonwood trees over there. There's some pressure, and it's just gravity flow. And we also tapped into the oil field's power, so they're paying for the electricity on the deal, so it's pretty great. I don't know I was supposed to do that, but anyways.
What paddock size do you go for?
Depends on the time of year and what our goals are,
Your permanent hot wire fence paddock, what size is that?
Honestly, if we had a full-time employee that was out here moving fence, larger paddocks and more temporary, because we don't have a full-time employee out here, whatever makes the most sense for us. It's tough because we've got a lot of other things going on. I really like that size, that 60, 70, 100 acres, whatever, and then we can strip that off however we want. I've talked to some people that have done that, and then 10 years later, then they had employees that were moving temporary electric every day, and they were like, man, I kind of wish I didn't have so many permanent fences out here, because it gives me options. Granted, this is pretty easy to pick up and move, relatively speaking, compared to barbed wire, but you can fence things however you want with temporary fence. And so I think I've got a reel and some other stuff up there if y'all want to kind of see that.
What's your cost per mile on this hot
It cost me $900 a mile at the time. I had my own employee at the time. I was just paying him $15 an hour, and then that was his labor plus the infrastructure. That was pre-COVID or during COVID, maybe. Yep. That may be higher now. But what is it? 15 grand for a new mile of barbed wire fence?
Oh,
Probably.
at least, yeah.
So 15 grand versus a grand. It's 15 times cheaper.
And it's high tensile with
Yes.
fiberglass 100-foot spacing? Or?
I just, whatever, I don't know how many steps I told him to take. I think I probably calculated 75 feet, and he couldn't speak English, so there was maybe a little miscommunication there, but we got her all figured out at the end of the day.
So Adam, you're, go ahead, excuse me.
Are those some kind of composite posts?
Yeah, so these are a plastic wood composite, 70% plastic, I think, 30% wood. They're going to burn probably if a fire comes through. They're a little prettier to look at than your typical fiberglass. You can go run your hand up and down it. It's not going to do anything, so that's nice. They're flexible, they're light, and you just drill a hole through whatever height you want your wire at, which is convenient as well versus fiberglass. Typically, you want to get those pre-drilled because it's a pain in the butt trying to drill a hole through them.
Why not just rebar post?
Because anytime you mix metal and something pops off, now you're grounding out and your fence isn't working. So that I can have a clip come off, I can have a deer run through this fence or whatever, and now it's not grounding out. Yeah, you do not want T-post, you don't want rebar. You probably saw a little bit just running there into like a little trap just north of the house. That was my first fence I did, and after I had an animal or two run through it, I said I will rip it up. I haven't ripped it up yet, but I hate that crap because it just we got too many miles of this fence out here. If you have a short, you're going to spend a ton of time driving through trying to find where your shorts are at, and it makes a lot more sense. The fiberglass post steel is great. That's nearly what we all do, and fire's not going to be as big of an issue. It could get it, but it's not going to be as big of an issue as these. So
I was on a ranch tour recently at the R.A. Brown Ranch in Throckmorton, which is a large ranch. They're getting ready they've already begun to install the collars, and they're going to do the vents with a V program. They're trying it. Donald's not ready to recommend it yet, but anyway, what do you know of that technology, and would that work out here?
Y'all hear that quail whistling? That'll make you go on point. Anyways, yes, vents. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it. It's electronic collar it's a shock collar for cows. You can just draw a fence on an app, and if they go out of those boundaries, it'll start shocking them. New technology, we've got a long ways to go on it. Battery life is not very good. You need to be processing your cows several times a year so you can change out batteries. And the big thing on battery life is refresh rate. So you can say, hey, I want to give a new GPS location for this cow every 5 seconds, or you could say every 3 hours. If it's every 3 hours, your batteries are going to last a lot longer. If it's every 5 seconds, your batteries aren't going to last long at all. If you wanted to go do high-density grazing and stuff like that, if it's having to send out a GPS reception all the time, those batteries aren't going to last. Versus if you go turn out on 100,000 acres and you've got 100,000 acre pasture and you just want to go put them on this 15,000 acres over here, it's only a matter of time. One animal can be on one side and it may take them 2 hours to get to the other side. So it doesn't need to refresh every 5 seconds. It could refresh every hour or two. I think out in the West it makes a lot of sense from that regard, especially if they can get the batteries running a little better. For our program, the technology's not there yet. So
I'm taking a poll. We're thinking about having a program on this at the beef conference. How many of you would like to see that program?
OSU and Dr. Laura Goodman are doing a long-term project with vets, and there's actually going to be a field day in Clayton on September 26th, all about virtual fencing. If anybody wants to go.
And one more comment I found is just thinking about it. With this, as your stocking rate goes up, your variable cost goes down. You have the fence, it's fixed. With vents, every time you have a new animal, you pay more for the new animal.
And you got to have the towers, and there's a lot of
and subscription. You're potentially paying a subscription service, and if they upcharge it and you got all the equipment, what do? You say, okay, yeah, I'll pay for it.
Yeah,
so
I called them and I thought, not for me.
Yeah,
I
not.
read a little bit about it 2 or 3 years ago, and I decided there's too many bad things about it. Too much upkeep. It isn't going to last.
But they may get it. I mean, eventually.
Yeah, they may get there. We're being closed-minded if we say it's never a thing that's going to be.
No, that's right.
There's many other companies that are
I've got a
developing
question
alternative
about
systems as well. They're
grass.
Yes, sir.
Have you got any eastern gamma grass?
Yes, sir. We drove by it. We'll see it on the way back.
Is it spreading?
Yes. depending upon how I impact it too. Yeah, we didn't know we had eastern gamma grass until 2020. I think was the first year we saw it, and yes, it is spreading.
Now then, the native gamma grass doesn't germinate as easily as some of the improved. I was fortunate enough to be able to get a sample of Iuka gamma grass from up in somewhere in Kansas that wanted to furnish county agent me a little bit to try out. And so I developed a nursery at my house, and it will readily germinate up and down wet areas, not necessarily creek bottoms, but I've got it growing even in draws and other places. And talk about productivity, there's nothing beats it. It's
in quality.
It's the ice cream of ice creams of ice creams of grasses, and you can graze it down, and it'll come back if you don't just hammer it. I mean, but it'll come back and it'll be waist high right now after being grazed down.
Yes, sir.
6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you'll see a spot where we didn't graze it and the spot where we grazed it on May the 25th to absolutely nothing. You'll be able to see that recovery. Yeah, it's incredible. It's a no-brainer.
The thing about it, some of you that like to improve your grasses, it doesn't take much money. You can get out there and hand harvest Indian grass seed. Like right now, you can hand harvest gamma grass seed. When you catch it at the right time, throw it in a styrofoam cup if you hadn't got a tin can or something, or a bucket, and then you just drive along the window and scatter it out as you drive along. And my grandson Josh can attest to the fact that how much Indian grass and gamma grass has spread over our creek bottoms and other wetlands. It didn't happen overnight, but you take 5 years, 10 years, and there'll be a lot of it. And I talk about the improved eastern gamma grass because I took up some that was from a native roadside stand, and it hadn't spread near as much as this other improved grass that was selected to not have to be able to germinate a lot easier and quicker than the old native stuff does. So anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's good stuff. If y'all help me remember when we go up there, Dale showed me this yesterday. I'd never tried it, but if you peel that seed head out and eat it, it tastes just like corn. I mean, literally just like corn, and it's just like grazing corn too. It's good stuff.
Eastern gamma grass is a member of the corn family.
Yep.
It's self-fertilized.
Adam, what's your? Can you just give us an overview of your grazing operation? Like, okay, you said you have 350 head. I'm sure it's all variable, but rest periods, graze periods, are they in the same pasture at different times of the year?
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, we're given almost a year's recovery on this stuff. I did have some bulls in here and some bulls in there for short term, 10, 12, 15 bulls, whatever it was. Not enough to really matter, but we try to get almost like a full year's a full year's rest, especially if it's like we graze now and it's only going to get a month of growing season, and then it's got a long dormant season. It needs all of the first half of next year to rest anyways, at the very, very least. And so that's kind of dependent too. If we wanted to create a little more wildlife habitat, maybe we'd come a little earlier, maybe we'd hit a little harder. I can show you some spots where, I'm rolling out hay over little bluestem that's just solid monoculture, junky, trashy little bluestem that's worthless, and it's just solid ragweeds now, and there's nothing better for quail and those kind of things. So just kind of setting that succession back a little bit. So it all depends on what your goals and objectives are. But yeah, the recovery, that's what we like to see. It also sometimes around pins and those kind of things, your traps are going to get a little bit more abused. It is what it is. Just manage the best you can and go from there. It also depends on the size of the pasture. Some of our bigger pastures that we're not able to graze quite as well. Of course, we're not going to get near as many cow days, but we may not intentionally even leave them as long either, just to allow it to recover. The only problem is now we're going to have a lot of overgrazed and a lot of undergrazed plants, and we're still working on that. We've got a couple of pastures that are I don't know, 300 or 400 acres that we still need to cut up and get smaller. And because I'm tired of stretching polywire a mile long or whatever.
So you like to have like 100, 200 acre pasture?
Yeah, that works really well for us.
A single herd or how many?
Yeah, this single herd here. I mean, yeah, we always have multiple herds. It's single herd, but it's like we got bulls somewhere or this or that or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, we got heifers in here. So again, Angus bulls is what we've turned out on. The cows, so you're going to see a lot of half-bloods. I think we do stunt their growth a little bit. You're going to see cows with no horns that are half Corrientes that are about the same size. They're 3 or 4 year old cows, so they're still maybe got another year or two of a little bit more growth, but they're about the size of one of the full-blood Corrientes. We're probably stunting their growth a little bit because we're pushing them. I mean, we're trying to make cows out of them, and our cows weigh about 675, 700 pounds is what they weigh. That's as fat as they get. And but when you're weaning calves that are bringing anywhere from $1,200 to $1,700 a head, and they're weighing 400 or 500 pounds, that's kind of hard to beat. So that's worked for us. We've pulled 2 calves. We had a heifer that we bought nearly everything from a sale barn too. I mean, this is kind of sale barn trash that we just found down in Central Texas and whatever. We have done a few private treaty deals, but they probably came from a sale barn too. So that's worked fairly well for us. I think if it wasn't quite as hard to give a breed, I wouldn't be quite as gung-ho to go do something like that.
What kind of supplement do you feed them?
Yeah, supplement, we just price it per pound of crude protein, and whatever makes the most sense works. So typically that's your higher, cake, a 37 or a 38% or something like that. We do have alfalfa. We like to wean the calves, so we'll wean in like January. We'll start calving April 15th. We like to wean in January. We have absolutely no sickness. We don't give the calves any shots or any of that garbage. We just fence line wean them and just let them do their thing. Well, yeah, they get a blackleg shot, at branding, but we don't give them any vaccinations at weaning.
Are you trying to go natural programs? Are you using the naturals, or are you just selling them?
No. We just, we could put them on Superior, and I've seen some do fairly well, but no, we just kind of sell them for what they are.
Y'all come with a foot rot kind of down around the swamp area?
No, I've never had foot rot. If they were down here for a month, standing in water, maybe so. Like when the bulls were down here, I actually had to swim them across and up to our pens before I turned out a couple of months ago because there was so much water. But no, we've never had foot rot.
How do you balance, if you feed them, let's say supplemental feed them through the winter, how do you still keep them going out grazing and not get them to have that behavior of looking to you for feed?
Don't feed them too much often. 3-4 days. They're if a vehicle comes through that looks like our feed vehicle day 3 and we're not going to feed them day 3, they might start balling and trying to chase. I do think we could be a little bit better with stockmanship and maybe some methods of doing that. I haven't fully figured that out yet. I mean, y'all heard them all balling when we drove down here. That's stress. Ideally, they wouldn't be doing that. You can see they've quietened up and they're just kind of waiting for somebody to open a fence. But I don't like that there is some undue stress, and I am not a good enough animal handler to fully figure that out yet. We also, any of y'all familiar with Burke Tykert? Sure. Burke Tykert. Clarendon College, 1 or 2? Yeah. For those that don't, please go research him. This man, he managed Deseret cattle, so Mormon Church's cattle operation for quite some time, and he is a sharp man. He wrote for Beef Magazine for a long time, and you can find a lot of really good information there. But one thing we stole from him is trying to have a long breeding season but a short calving season. So what that means is we leave our bulls turned out till we wean calves, and so any open cows are still getting bred, but then as long as you keep the calves that weaned earlier or calved earlier and then just wean them and then sell the others, you're better off doing that than just straight up open cows generally. And so there's a lot of value in that. You will see, because of a rising market, because we have so much grass, I mean, we could probably run about 700 cows in a herd, I think is what we could do with our other properties. Seasonally, we'd send some stuff over there, but we are severely understocked right now. And this is also, too, this is something to think about. We're about half what most of the county has gotten for rainfall this year. So we're right at average. I mean, literally, I think we're at 18.5 inches after that stuff last night. And that's right about where we should be average-wise for this place. Now, grass productivity-wise, we're a little better than average because of the timing of that rain. But there's some guys that are 30. There may be somebody with 40 here. I don't know, but for sure 30s is kind of the common thing here locally. And so it was a good year. I'm not complaining by any means. We're understocked anyways.
So since you're understocked, I mean, I don't blame you for selling them when they weigh 400 pounds, but have you thought about keeping them and making yearlings out of them? Or?
Yeah, we could keep them, make yearling. You know, they're not going to just gain super well. So I've never been big on the steers. Our bread and butter so far has been selling that 450 pound 75-day wean calf April 1st.
Oh, so you do.
We top the market at El Reno or wherever it is, and it's worked really well for us. Ideally, again, we would keep the heifers. If somebody keeps offering me too much,
take in those custom grazing.
For sure. If somebody keeps offering me what we got offered this year, I don't know if I'll ever keep heifers.
Yeah.
You know, and people see value in this. We didn't have them for sale. Some guy contacted me, and they're in Oregon now. You know, we sent a couple of truckloads of heifers up there. So there's value in genetics like this. It's kind of a niche market, but there is.
How do you, they're pretty tightly bunched. Is that just because they're used to being moved in cells so often, or?
Yeah, you know, they will be spread out some. It's because we've bought cattle from a lot of different places, they have their own little family group. So a lot of times they will be herded up, but when you do see them spread out, it's, oh, that's those cows I bought from that person, and oh, that's those that I bought from that sale barn, and those kind of things. And then it's their daughters that are doing the same thing.
They're all waiting for the gate, I guess.
Yeah, they are. I guess we could go open it so they're not sitting there. And y'all think of more questions, and after we mineral program, we just get free choice salt from Independent Salt Mine in Kansas. It's, I don't know, a couple of bucks a bag. And then I've just bought some. It's just like High Pros 1-to-1, and I just mix a little bit of it in, and I don't think I've ever had any problems. We did free choice minerals for a while, so basically cafeteria style, where you got like 20 different types of minerals, and they can come and pick what they're supposed to want and all those kind of things. And they were just hammering the selenium, and they were hammering the boron, and so I ran out of that really, really fast. And I did that just trying to see what they did and didn't need. And then the other stuff, a lot of it they hadn't touched. It's a pain because I don't want to carry 20 different bags of mineral, and then I go out and I didn't need this, and I needed more of this, and you just don't know. So I'm not sold on that deal. If you don't have a problem, why are you trying to fix something? Is kind of where we're at.
Being down on the river with so many bugs, have you ever thought about supplementing like a mineral garlic?
Yeah, I think mineral garlic has a merit to it. They're pretty good at shedding fly. I mean, they're hardy. If I had all conventional cows, I'd probably do something like that. I think there's a lot of merit to the garlic in your mineral, especially if the flies seem to be really bad. I push them. They're made to be cows, and I'm not going to baby them. I may be losing a little bit of money on that deal. I mean, it may be cheaper to do a little bit of garlic, and I might have a little heavier calves and those kind of things, but it's just not something we pursued.
What do you do if you open the gate and move cattle, and 20 or 30 of them stay back there?
Yeah. So we'll open this gate, and we could leave, and they'll all move themselves. There'll be some that are going to run off, and they're going to leave their calves behind. We'll leave the gate open, and I'll come back probably tomorrow evening, and just see if there's anybody. They'll all be in there by tomorrow evening, and then I can come back and shut the gate. I don't ever try to shut a gate within 24 hours of moving them if it's a decent sized pasture, just because you don't want to separate mama from baby. Like when I came out of the river a few days ago, 2 days after, there was a cow and a little bitty baby calf still on the river. She'd had her calf, was up in some brush. I didn't even know it. But then she was all alone. She was ready to join the herd. When her calf was big enough to cross the river, they crossed the river and came back over. And so, yeah, you just don't want to shut them away from it. I learned that the hard way. I think I killed some calves one time I was trying to shut a gate behind them too fast because we were branding and this, that, and the other, trying to move them across landscape too fast, and that's an issue. You can get cattle strung out a long ways in a lot of different pastures doing stuff like that, and that's definitely not ideal. Okay. Any other really pressing questions, or we want to move cows and then maybe something else will come up? Okay.
Are we all going to go up there or just stand?
Y'all do whatever you want to do. Ideally, you might walk down and see the pasture that they're in, pasture they're going to, and look at the differences. Here's a wooden handle, kind of help people go over the.
How long have they been in this pasture?
4 days.
4 days.
got some of that insider trading info. What's going on.
It doesn't have to be hot. For the sake of time, anybody have something super pressing question, something they wanted to ask, something you saw, something we could have done better, anything? Yes?
What do you do if something runs through the fence and goes into the old pasture?
Well, I mean, if they would have went They're herd animals, right? And so one or two animals, they're not very comfortable, and they'd really like to get back to the herd if they do that. Typically, I don't go chase them because that just makes matters worse. Just leave them alone. If I come get them, as long as they have water in that pasture, I'll leave them for a day. They'll be hanging on the fence. You just go open the gate and you can leave. I can leave a gate open if it's something that hadn't recovered a whole lot. Those cows aren't going to come back through. It's not that big of a deal. They've got plenty of fresh grass in the next pasture. So
how many water tanks do you have off that tap then?
that tap I have 3.
This pasture.
This one, one a little over a mile east of that, and then one at that tank.
What about that one? Just the river?
Yes, I'm just walking out of the river in that river pasture. I don't have any tanks down there. It completely flood, and it's too much hassle. And this sand is my ditcher. You can't run a ditcher through this. You have to dig it by excavator because it collapses in on itself because it's just straight sand.
Have you tested the organic matter here? Do you know if it's increasing at all?
Not a whole lot, especially not right here. Sands' organic matter's dismal. I mean, there's not much at all, and Dale could speak more into that probably as what he's seen with stuff. Some of my more productive stuff, it's a long game. Like, at the end of the day, to hope that I've really increased it every 3 minutes is... Y'all need to go.
Pull the bottom of your mic out and talk directly.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was like, what are you trying to say here?
How much on average do you think you can increase organic matter across the ranch?
Oh, I have no idea. He was asking how much do I think I could increase organic matter. I have no idea. I don't think it should.
Do you have an answer?
Yes.
So did this pasture right here look about like that one when you guys came off of it?
No. So again, this was traditionally hayed. Once you get into that brush over there, that was not hayed. There's more sand. For those of you that walked a little further north, there's little bitty sand hills and that kind of stuff. It does, once you get beyond these little set of trees here, it becomes a lot less waterlogged, and it's not as productive as this either.
You have some overground line. Is that? I mean, do you have your preference would be to ditch everything?
My preference would be to ditch everything, but cost-effective wise, sometimes that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why I have these taps. So it gives me the flexibility. I've got like 2-inch line that I route in above ground, about 500-foot lengths. They've got cam locks on them. I can tie them in together however I want and put water, within a couple thousand feet if I really am getting super ambitious of my main tree trunk. Okay. This is basically a tree trunk, and then I can have branches coming off if I want to.
Connect?
Yes, quick. Oh, no, I don't do any quick connects. I hadn't found them big enough. Can't keep up with water, so I'm just doing straight cam locks. Yeah.
Wait, how do you tie into the cam lock off of the main trunk line?
With another cam lock. Yeah, cam lock to cam lock, so 3-inch. It's got a 2-inch deal, 3-inch line, then it goes down to 2-inch, and it's all 2-inch cam locks to 2-inch poly.
Are you able to use those surface ones in the winter? I've heard that poly was able to do that.
Yeah, I've had no problems using that stuff in the wintertime.
Surface.
Yeah. If it get, when it gets to that negative 20 and 30, sometimes that we get, I'm not going to rely upon that. I don't want to tear something up. But yeah, if it gets down to 20 degrees, it's not a big deal. No, I've got multiple chargers because we've got that county road that dissects, and I didn't bore anything under or anything like that. So we have multiple chargers.
Vegetation shortening out?
No, we've never really had a problem with vegetation shortening anything out. We're a little underpowered. A couple days ago, as dry as we are, this was only showing like 3,000 volts, but he didn't see anything out. If I don't have a problem, I'm not going to try to fix something.
What joule is it?
That's a 6 joule, I think, and then the one runs the south side's like a 18 joule.
What are those charges?
What are they? Like what brand, or how do they work? Or
Pump your waters. That's what.
no. This is it's an electric fence charger. That's what energizes the fence. Is what they're asking about. So there's either solar powered, or these are coming off of main power. Just plug into a regular wall outlet.
What brand?
This one's a Stay Fix. I like the Stay Fix because it's got a wireless remote. If I had my remote with me, I could have just put it on the fence and turned off the wire from anywhere and turned it right back on, which is really convenient. Cyclops makes really good ones. They're really hot. remote doesn't have that capability. Do not go buy crap from the farm store, whether it's an Energizer or a post or a wire or any of that garbage, because it will not last. Insulators, they all break. Garbage. Do not do it. I got a lot of amens on that. Do we want to move on?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next place.
We've got room and we've got some more seats in the bus. I'll stand some kids up in the back. If people are right in the back, you don't want to be in the rain. Get on the bus.
Okay.